This is Frank Islam, Chairman and CEO of FY Investment Group, and your host of Tonight with Frank Islam. Today, our guest is Sadaf Ayaz. She is a 19-year-old senior at Hunter College. She has written 2 books. So, thank you very much, Sadaf, for coming to our show, and it's nice to see you. And thank you for all you do. We're proud of your accomplishment. And being a 19-year-old, you have a lot to give to this country and to the world. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you inviting me to your show. So I'm a published author of 2 books, one of which is a bestseller. And I'm also the CEO, founder, and editor-in-chief of REV 21 Media, which is a platform made especially by minority youth. And it's a place where we get to talk about the things that are important to us. So we have a news site, we have a production company, and we just want to start creating content made especially by us, minority youth in America and around the world.
Well, so you just mentioned, Sadaf, that you wrote 2 books. So my question, I wrote 2 books myself.
Oh, really?
And yeah, Renewing the American Dream. I embody the American dream. I also wrote a book called To the Pivot Points, to how do you move America forward. So what inspired you to write these 2 books? And the question really is, do you have you made any difference and impact and influence in people's life by writing those 2 books? And who published it?
Well, my very first book was published by Virgo Books. And my second book, I actually am not sure who the publisher is because it was a collaboration. So the person who was handling the publishing was not me. So basically what inspired me to write my books was the fact that in our household, we have a huge importance and priority given to reading and writing. So ever since I was little, I remember seeing my parents reading books and them taking us to the library and getting us books. In fact, I learned how to speak English by reading books. So books hold a really important part in my life. And as soon as I started going to school and started writing short stories, I'd read them at the table at my house during dinner. And because of that, my sisters also got inspired and they started doing the same stuff. But after reading my short stories and hearing feedback from my parents, from my siblings, I thought, why not start my own proper book and get that published? So I wrote my very first book, which was called Crossing Red Lights. I actually have a copy of it right here.
Yeah, well, show us. Just flash it. Wonderful.
Yeah, it's about a girl
who's... And then the second book? Where's the second book?
The second book is called The Better Business Book, but I don't have a copy of it right here with me right now.
What about, tell us a little bit about your next book, which will be your third book.
Yes, my next book is about a hijabi guitarist, because when I published my very first book, it was about a white girl living in America with a white family. It's a very predictable type of character in terms of the types of characters that are written in young adult fiction. And one of the biggest criticism I received in what I wrote was people my age asking me why my main character did not look like me, did not sound like me, did not have anything to do with my personality and my culture and religion. And I realized that that was a real issue because I had written a white character because I thought no one would read read a book about someone who looks like me. And the issue is, if people like myself don't create that content and don't put it out there, no one's really going to even think that, oh, maybe I should read a story like that. So that's why my next book is really, really important to me, to make sure that I'm taking advantage of my culture and religion and sharing that with the world through a very visually pleasing and inviting image of a hijabi girl that plays a guitar.
So what are the values and the character and the conscience of your religion that you're very proud of?
Well, I think a lot of the times people's idea of what Pakistan is and people's idea of what Islam is so wrong. And that's because the people who are telling our stories are not people who are us. And so what's really important to me is being able to share the message of Islam, being able to share the values that Pakistan was built on, and to promote those ideas that are positive about our culture and religion rather than the negative, which is often highlighted so many times in the news and media.
So obviously, what you're really saying, Sadaf, that your religion stands for equality, dignity, tolerance, and respect for other faiths. Correct?
Yes, yes,
You have a value. And your religion has a character, and you want to promote that message across the globe. That's what you're really saying.
yes,
I want to
yes,
change your
absolutely.
subject a little bit, Sadaf. You're an entrepreneur, so am I. I used to be. The question really is, what made you to become an entrepreneur? Is entrepreneur born, or they just become an entrepreneur?
So I'm an entrepreneur because of my media company, Rev 21 Media, and entrepreneurs, I feel anything in life really.
Entrepreneurs are made or born. Are made or born.
See, yeah, that's what I'm going to answer. I don't think anyone is born a specific way. I think everything that we do, all the control is up here in our minds. And that's what we need to learn how to use and utilize. It's really, really hard to convince yourself to think in a different way, to convince yourself that you're capable when you don't feel capable. But it's mind over matter, and you convincing yourself and telling yourself something that you want to achieve and constantly reminding yourself that helps you achieve. On my media company, I was the youngest person on the team and I was the leader. And that whole idea was very, very difficult for me to come across and kind of be okay with, because everyone had experienced so much more. I live, for me, it's always going to school, going back home, and it's nowhere like I haven't really experienced the world the way so many other people have. So the way I think is different, the way I talk is different, the ideas I have is different. So trying to communicate that with the limited experience I had was difficult, but knowing that I knew that I had done my research, that I knew I had the ideas, that I was capable, made so like a team of 100 people be okay with listening to someone who is younger than them. And I think that's what the power of the mind is, and that's what everyone is capable of. We just have to realize it and take advantage of it.
That's very well said. You want to inspire the other people. That's the one of the things you want to do. If I have to
Yes,
interview 5 years from now, Sadaf, you will be 24 years
yes,
old.
yes.
What would you be doing at that time, and what will be your vision at that time? What kind of impact you will have at that time? Are you going to conquer the world by then? What exactly would you do 5 years from now?
Well, the previous 5 years have gone completely in an unpredictable path. I do not know where life is leading me. I have many, alhamdulillah, I'm very, very lucky that I have so many doors open to me towards so many paths. And one thing I know for sure is that no matter what I'm doing, it's going to be positive, and it's going to be changing the misconceptions and misrepresentations of Muslim women around the world. That's my number one thing that I do want to make sure Pakistani Muslim women, especially, um, that people have a face to look towards globally. And maybe one day I hope that I can be that through my work, and to show people that what we're doing is so much more greater than what the news is saying that we're doing.
So you want to empower the young minds with education, with your values, what you believe in it,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Um, so that's what you want to do 5 years from now. You continue to do
I
what you're
want to
doing,
continue doing
correct?
that. Yes, but at a larger level, hopefully with a bigger platform, with a bigger voice, with more support from people like yourself, and reaching more millions, billions of people one day, inshallah.
So you did not get politically engaged, but you got into the media entertainment business. The question is,
Yes.
how do you get the money, and where is your and and if somebody does make investment, what kind of return do the people get on your investment when they give you money?
So, for the first part of your question, I didn't go into politics. I specifically chose media and entertainment because I feel like when people think impact and people think outreach, the very first thing they think of is politicians. Even now, whenever I approach people, they're like, "Oh, what are you studying? What are you doing?" And when I tell them I'm in media, I'm doing medicine, they're just like, "Oh no, but we thought you would be doing politics." And the reason why I didn't choose politics was because media and entertainment is a platform that is rarely touched by people like myself, unfortunately, because we think it's not something that deserves attention. But that has the biggest impact. Fiction, shows, anything visually entertaining is what changes people's minds. And I wanted to tap into that because although we have seats at the table, or we're getting there in terms of politics, we don't really have those seats in terms of media and entertainment. And finally, Pakistan is starting up its film industry and it's flourishing. And because of that, I feel like we're going to have so much more impact globally. And in terms of investors, I personally do not have investors. All the money that I'm putting into it is my own money, and my dad is investing into it. And the reason why I did that is because I did a lot of research in terms of media companies and the way that the media industry works. And I know that investors have a huge hand into what type of content gets published, what type of content gets approved. And I don't want to be forced into doing something that I do not want to do or something that I do not agree with. Although the platform that I've created, it's for all sorts of people, whether I agree with their idea or not. I do not want to have someone who's forcing me to write content about a particular person or a particular topic that I know is not something that should be discussed. So I did have a Jewish investor who wanted to invest into my company, which is my dad's friend. But I declined that offer specifically because if I do get an investor, they have to understand that what I want to put out there is very specific to minorities, minority youth. It's our voice towards the world, not just minorities or not just the youth, but everyone. So any investor that I do take in, I want them to be from a minority background. And I would especially love it to be someone who's Pakistani, someone who's Muslim, because I feel like the level of understanding and communication that in relationship we can create in that is something that's much more valuable than I can create with someone who or especially Jewish people who already control the media. I do not want to have that anymore. I want to create a seat at the table for so many other people who exist and can create an impact with all the resources they have. That's how you create impact, by putting your resources together and bringing the voices together and creating something huge that makes a difference.
So you want investor that share your vision, your values, your character, your history and heritage. Did I get it right?
Yes, someone I can rely on to make sure they won't be forcing me to publishing content or creating content that is wrong.
Let me ask you a question, a personal question. Perhaps you wear hijab,
yes.
which is what you believe in it, and as President Obama said, you should do what you believe in it, and he said it many times. Do you think it has hurt you? It has helped you? As I understand, you have also been a model across America in Apple stores. And what kind of reaction did you get from the people?
So I recently started acting and modeling, which has been a really interesting experience. I went into acting for personal reasons, to open up my mind, my body, in terms of in terms of confidence and being able to explore different things that are inside myself. And because of that, I got into acting, and immediately the very first thing I got was Apple. And because I've been very, very lucky to have had that opportunity. My picture was placed in Apple stores worldwide. All my friends all over the world were sending me pictures of that. And right after that, I got Fiverr's Year of Do campaign, which was placed in metropolitan cities around the world, in which there are a lot of entrepreneurs. So there were billboards in the subway stations and all that kind of stuff. And I was really scared to do my very first campaign with Apple because, I was like everyone else in terms of how I thought of the.
Why did you select you as a hijabi person to be the model for the Apple stores? Obviously, you're young, you're attractive, and and they wanted to attract the young generation, which I get it, but I did not get the second part.
The reason why Apple and Fiverr both chose a hijabi face to represent part of their campaign is because we are regular day Americans. We are regular day humans. We exist all over the world. And if there aren't people, like, this is what people see. And if we're not representing that in our ads, in our campaigns, in entertainment and media, we're misrepresenting what the world looks like. The world is not all white. The world is colorful. It's beautiful. It has so many cultures and religions. And when people start showing that and accepting that, which I commend Apple and Fiverr for taking the step and being like, oh, wait, yes, this person is someone who exists in America and we should include her. Because, like, it's when you put yourself out there, they're like, you give people something to think about. When I submit for auditions and when I go into auditions, no one's written a role for a hijabi girl. I go in for regular everyday girl roles, and I surprise the casting directors, the producers, because they're like, oh my God, we never thought that we can have a hijabi girl playing this role, when hijabi girls like myself live that role every single day of their lives.
So you want to build a society which is inclusive, which is fair, which is open, and which is tolerant. Those are the
Yes.
strengths and values and qualities of America that all of us can proudly and truly embrace. And that's the kind of thing you want to preach and teach. Am I correct to assume
Yes.
that?
Yes.
That's
Yes.
very well said.
Thank you.
So there are a lot of people watching this show all over the globe. You are very young, 19-year-old woman, written books, you're accomplished. You have done a lot to serve our community and the country, and people take a pride in your accomplishment. So if
Thank
I
you.
was a if I had a daughter who's about your age, or maybe a little bit younger or older, what advice would you give to them, to the young people who wants to be like you, and especially the fact that so there are two questions. Number one, a young woman, and regardless who
All
they
right.
are, color, creed, religion, race, background, and belief, because you do transcend all boundary of religion and race, and you represent the best of humanity. The second question that I have, the woman who really wants to wear the hijab and live in America and all over the world, what advice do you give it to them? So the two
I
questions
think
for you.
so. When you're a minority group, when you're a woman, when you're someone of color, someone who represents a religion very openly, sometimes what happens is you think that because you're of this particular group, that you're not capable of doing things because people who look like you don't exist there. So the very first thing you need to take out of your mind are the limitations that you've created because of who you are. Because what you are is not what's stopping you. It's what's inside that is stopping you. The world will never stop you. You have to fight for your right. And when you fight for your right and you put yourself out there and you struggle and people notice that, people will support you and they will help you and they will help you get to where you need to be. So the very first thing for any girl is to take out of their minds that, oh, I'm a girl and therefore I can't do this, because women are capable of so much more, and sometimes even more than men in some cases. And we need to realize that power. We need to appreciate that power. We need to accept that power, and we need to be proud of that power and take advantage of it and use it wherever we can to become the best possible humans we can to achieve all our dreams, because everything is possible. For your second question, in terms of hijab as well, I think that's another thing. I think, especially when I think of acting, I don't know anyone who wears a hijab and acts. But still, I'm like, I think it's possible because we exist out there. And if I don't put myself out there, no one's going to create the opportunity. The hijab is our physical, I guess, symbol of what religion we represent and what we represent inside and out, which is one thing. It's peace. We're representing peace, we're saying peace. And we're also, when we're wearing the hijab in a country like America, we're saying, listen, yes, I wear the hijab. Yes, I'm a Muslim. I'm proud of it. And I'm unapologetic about wearing the hijab and wearing the clothes I wear. But at the same time, when you're wearing a smile on your face out in public, you're also welcoming people who don't understand you, who don't understand your religion, to come and have a conversation. And you also open doors for curiosity and to just have that place to talk and address the issues that no one's really talking about, and have those uncomfortable conversations everyone's so afraid of.
What I did not hear, Sadaf, you talking about it, and you articulated your thoughts well, in a very eloquent manner, to tell the young girls that in order for you to become an entrepreneur, in order to explore your fullest potential, which you talked about, is the power of woman that you said. How about telling them that you aim high, you if you work hard, aim high, you could pursue your dream as well, correct? And also be a lifelong learner, and also when you're successful, help other people to succeed as well.
Yes,
Is that
I
the message that
absolutely.
you also embrace, Sadaf?
Oh, yes, 100%. I absolutely agree with you. But the reason why I chose not to say that, and the reason why I specifically said to take out those limitations, is because it's natural for women and for people from minority groups to put that out there and to put in their minds that, oh, wait, because I have this and that and I'm like this, I can't possibly achieve this. So that's why it's important for me to get that across, because all these things are said to everyone. But the issue is for minority groups, especially, is that we think that we can't do it because we're a minority, and we need to take that veil, that wall that we've created in our minds out. Which is why it's important for me to share my advice through that form, I guess.
What would be advice if someone walked to you and say, how do you go about breaking the barrier of the biases that divide us? And also, we have become a polarized and divisive society under this administration. How do you go about telling people that we need to come together? The diversity that you talked about is a strength to our nation. When
Yes.
we are when we're stronger, we can help shape a better future for America.
I think the very first thing that is needed is communication. It's about creating dialogue. And it's also important to, again, I'm going to go back to the reason why I started Ref 21, is to have a seat at the table and take care of your own narrative and share it the way it needs to be. The only way you can get rid of divisions is through understanding. And the only way to create understanding is to create a platform, a means in which people are able to communicate. People feel safe about asking their questions. People feel safe about expressing their opinions. And I feel like media and entertainment, or just social media, everyone has it in their hands. You can start posting on Facebook and Twitter and just sharing your stories, your ideas, telling people who you are, because we have that power now. And it's dialogue. Communication and dialogue is how we get rid of divisions in our society.
So dialogue, debate, and discourse and discussions.
Yes.
Correct. You have to
Yes.
have a discourse
Yes.
as well. So,
Yes.
what about, you did not mention, and I wanted to get have you to talk about the how can we build the bridges of understanding and cooperation with other faith, because we are in this together, correct?
Yes.
And also break the barrier of the biases that divides us. And also, we don't have to build a wall, we need to build the bridges.
Oh,
And
yes,
also having an
absolutely. And
interfaith dialogue that can brings
oh,
people
yeah.
together. Can you shed some bright light on those kind of things that we just talked about?
I mean,
Interfaith
I
dialogue, which
think
is a very important aspect, is.
so. I would say that in terms of interfaith dialogue, again, everything goes back to the way that you communicate. There's no way, like, if you're yelling at someone, no one's going to listen to what you're saying. Once you're really open to it, you have to know that in order to be heard, you have to listen first. So when you're going out there and you're trying to have dialogue with someone, the very first thing to do is to make sure that you're listening to what they have to say, their concerns, because we all live in a bubble. We all live in this idea of, we know who we are, and we kind of sometimes expect that everyone should know who we are, when that's not true. In order to really understand someone, you have to spend time with them, and vice versa. If you expect something, you have to make sure you're giving the same thing as well.
Well, as I close the conversation with you, I want to leave you with this thought. I believe it's President Obama who said that anything and everything is possible when we learn from one another, when we listen to each other, when we set aside our differences to work for shared goal, shared responsibility, and
Yes.
shared sacrifices.
Yes.
So that's something
I love that.
I wanted to leave you with that thought. Also, I want you to make sure You get the education because, as President Obama also said, education is the gift that keeps on giving. It will be the currency of the 21st century. So empower other women by education and empower them with the entrepreneurship as well. So thank you, Sadaf, for all you do, and appreciated you coming by and talking to us and instilling in us what's important in America to bring people together. That's what you're
Well,
doing.
thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed this
You're,
conversation.
you're exploring the far horizons, a new frontier. Thereby, you're keeping the hope alive and well.
Oh,
Thank you
thank
very
you.
much for watching. This is Frank Islam wishing you a great week.